We are talking today about tectonic changes in music education for K-12, and I'm really pleased. My name is Dr. Gigi Johnson at the Marymel Institute and Rethink Next, and occasionally UCLA, to talk with these great people about transformations that may be happening through the pandemic, may have already been happening, and how we think, how we teach K-12 music education. And let me start with the fabulous Dr. Frank Hauser. Can you share what you're passionate about in music?
Okay, I'm passionate about all music, but what I'm passionate about in music education is preparing young people to teach in ways that they can do it in a meaningful way in schools. Move beyond just preparing for performance after performance after performance, so that their students come out of their programs equipped to go on to college or equipped to become, you know, music makers, music lovers in their adult career, and to really have a broad understanding and appreciation for multiple styles of music. And it's a really wonderful thing to watch a young person who wants to become a music teacher really blossom into somebody who can be a fine teacher and interacts beautifully with young people.
David Sears from Grammy in the Classroom and everything else that you do. What are you passionate about in music education?
Well, in my role at the Grammy Museum as the head of the Grammy in the Schools National Programs, uh, one of the things that we are very passionate about is making music education accessible to every young person, so that they have the option of studying music should they choose. And also for those students who really wish to have a career in music, to give them every opportunity to give them a chance to be having a successful career by providing resources for them that they need to have that are generally not taught in the classroom. We do that through some of our programs like Grammy Camp, uh, but those are the things that I'm very passionate about. And then lastly, it's letting folks know, in particular, starting with our music educators, that the skill sets that they are teaching in their classes are beneficial to students regardless of the career that they want to go into. Those soft skills like focus and practice, getting along with others, those are vitally important, and they play a role in helping to make students college and career ready.
And we who teach in college appreciate that they can play well with others when they learn to play in schools. And Akira,
Yeah.
you work at this, but you work at this outside the classroom with a really unique program. Akira Nakano, can you share what you're doing in the LA Inception Orchestra?
Yes, thank you so much. So we go down and we teach young composers and from junior high through high school. We teach them composition and music theory because when we look at a traditional music education, and lots of LA nonprofits are doing such fabulous work, but they teach instruments only. And so when these kids, their students, have been graduating into college and they find themselves behind, composition and theory are on the state of California standards, often not taught in schools, often not taught in other nonprofits. And I think because that we are not beholden necessarily to provide a correct curriculum, to any sort of school district, we really can focus on this angle of creativity and get the kids active that way in a counter to a traditional music education, and then back in the music theory and the music analysis portion in a way that makes sense to them creatively and fun.
David, can you maybe pick up the ball and take us around? What are you seeing? Because you see so many schools through your programs. What are you seeing as kind of the breadth of how students are learning music and if that's changing?
Well, one of the things that we noticed with COVID sort of taking over everything with the pandemic is that in many cases, teachers were really scrambling to figure out how they were going to be relevant and teach music in a situation where teaching ensembles was not an option. Because as you all know, there's really not a good online option for having ensembles play together at the same time. Uh, and that caused uh, many teachers and the industry as a whole to really shift and say, we've got to find other ways to be relevant. And it's been very heartening to see that so many have leaned into this and say, okay, we can still do meaningful work to help our students become better individuals and better music people.
What have you seen, Frank? Because you teach in pre-service faculty, wonderful young people who are looking to take this world, and you're working with them after they've left. What are you seeing that teachers have been wrestling with and blossoming under?
Well, first of all, the paradigm for teaching music in schools has pretty much remained the same for many, many years, with preparing young people to perform in large groups in public. And the move from being able to work together in a band room or choir room, orchestra room, to suddenly working through Zoom has been traumatic. I mean, major league traumatic. Everyone's trying to figure it out. What I have seen, however, is teachers really try to engage their own students and bring them into music making in different ways. A good number have done virtual concerts. And they have learned that by doing that, they get to hear each of their students individually and figure out what they're really doing when they perform. Okay, so and that can be
It's the mystery in the box that you weren't
yes,
seeing
yes,
before.
and that can be both be wonderful and traumatic for the teacher. Okay, but they are able to still, when they put virtual performances together, have the young people feel a sense of working together, of mutual intentionality, of doing things that are music making. And it's challenging to get every student to participate and be part of this, but they have really wanted to make things work. Others have gone on and changed the paradigm of what they're doing, and using online DAWs and so on, taught composition, taught other music foundations, fundamentals. And there are a couple of companies out there which have wonderful software available that, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, they made it available for free to schools all over the country, all over the world. It was just fabulous. And so this is causing, I think, teachers to think about teaching in new ways. And, everyone I know can't wait to go back to real life teaching. They really can't. And there will be a shift back to that. But they now have new skills and new ideas that they can incorporate in their teaching.
Akira, can you maybe pick up the ball on this a little bit as to, because that's not the way you guys teach. So you've already sort of gone in a different direction pre-COVID. Can you maybe share that and then how that shift happened with COVID?
Yes, of course. So, I think what was great for us is when we were teaching composition, we would be in the studio for group sessions with our mentor, with our rotating mentors coming in and all the kids getting together. And then all the kids would get private lessons, individually one-on-one by Zoom. So literally the shutdown happened the week our new program was supposed to start up last March. And so 2 days later, we just said, okay, we're going to be on Zoom. And it was actually very, very easy for us to transition. And what we found is, yes, we are going to adapt a little bit because, firstly, the kids are great at technology, way better than a lot of us adults. And Zoom, in this weird way, made it safe for some of our younger kids, because all of a sudden we had a cohort that was a little bit younger, where we had junior high through high school kids now. And so this Zoom technology actually made it so that these younger kids were not intimidated to walk into this recording studio at the beginning, and they got to know us and they got to work one-on-one in this group and in the safety of their home that they were used to. Now, because we teach composition, and of course, one of the big things that is important in composition is improvisation. So that is the one thing that we really did lose. However, we made use of the breakout rooms to really try to work on how are these kids going to write for each other? How are they going to write multiple lines? And how do these get played together? The other part that we found that's really cool is that actually teaching composition virtually is so much more effective in some ways, because you instantly can see what the kids are writing on the on the software. You can comment on it, and then now that we have gone, I mean, we've gone national thanks to Zoom. We have kids dialing in from all over the country, mentors dialing in from all over the country, so people can instantaneously view this music, and we're not running around like looking for a copying machine, so that we can all play this in session. So now how we're going to adapt when we come back is we're going to go in a hybrid model, because we need to keep engaging our kids around the country. So yes, we're still going to continue to shoot out on Zoom, but we're going to be in the studio with a small number of kids as well. And we think that is adapting, using the technology, and trying to really figure out how this can continue to be. Because I think, yes, everyone's right. The new education model is going to be a hybrid. This technology is here to stay, and I think this is great for the future.
So I know you're working with ASMAC, that you have the ability now to connect up with professional composers to work with students from all over the country, right?
Yes, it's actually been fantastic. We have this amazing partnership with ASMAC, which is the American Music Society of Arrangers and Composers. And so, truthfully, the best in the business are coming in to talk to our kids. We rotate lead mentors, guest mentors around every week. And then we have a staff team of all volunteer mentors that help our kids in the breakout rooms. But we have, I truthfully, I mean, I grew up a classical pianist, and I never thought that I'd be working with musicians of this caliber in my life, in my music career. And it's just crazy to be able to get these arrangers and composers and musicians who've worked on film scores and things that you see on as a fan. And it's great to be able for us to bring this level of mentorship and musicianship to our kids, and I'm thrilled about it. So
David and Frank, is that something you're seeing more traditional K-12 schools do, and sort of break the four walls of the classroom with this sort of virtual engagement space, or is that an opportunity to be tapped?
I'm seeing people bring in clinicians, studio players to work with sections and individuals in an easier fashion now than they could in the past. And of course, everyone is trying to hunt for things to do, so there's a lot of people willing to do this kind of thing. It's quite wonderful. And I'm hoping that one of the things that will come out of this is people will be forging new partnerships with professional musicians and nonprofit organizations to improve the level of learning in all of our groups in the schools. So, and the other thing I'm really seeing, which is surprising me, is because everyone is so isolated, they really enjoy the social aspects of doing things together, whether it's a virtual concert or something. And I've actually observed a few of rehearsals of people who are using a couple of the online programs that allow you to play together with very little latency. But this is wonderful, except there's a real equity issue with that, in that you have to have an Ethernet connection. And so many of the kids are having such a hard time even just getting on the internet that it's in very rare situations where it happens. But in the situations I've observed, the students are so happy to do something together. That being together, that playing together is so important to them. And I think that is going to really be reinforced when we go back. So David, have you seen any of this kind of thing? Or
Yeah, well, what I'm seeing is, I won't say it's in the reverse, but it's from the other side, because we have programs where we invite students to participate. And because we went online, for example, with our Grammy Career Day program, which is usually a regional program, which we do live in particular cities across the country, this past fall, we took it, of course, online on Zoom, and we scheduled 8 weekly events, and it became a resource for teachers to assign these events as homework for students. And during those 8 events, I was hoping to get maybe 100 students signed up per event, about 800. We ended up getting 8,000 students signed up. And most of them, frankly, in Los Angeles County, because we didn't really do a national outreach. So much so that we have expanded that whole opportunity for teachers, and it just showed us that teachers are really looking for resources and activities for their students to participate in to enhance the educational experience that they're giving. And we're going to be doing it again during Grammy Week through our Grammy in the Schools Fest program. And all of this is free. All the teachers have to do is, register for it and assign it to their kids as homework. We're providing them with study guides and lesson plans so that they can have a life beyond just that 1:45 or an hour session with the young people. And it just gives them more tools. So we see the teachers are more open to this. They're looking for more activities for their students to do because now they don't have all of their time caught up in preparing a large ensemble for a concert in 2 months.
We've ended up in this mode of delivery that is a scale delivery in K-12 classrooms. Is that potentially changing from this, both before we are all back and after we are back, so there's an expectation of something different?
I think it's potentially changing. I know lots of young professional musicians who were actually teaching privately online for a few years back, before COVID. And so those are resources that were not available to me when I was teaching school, because when I was teaching school, there was no internet. So
it's just been a little while.
Yeah, when I was teaching school, there were no cars, just horses. But I think absolutely these additional resources, and now what we need to do, and I think what we need to do, particularly in the urban school communities, the large urban communities, is we need to try to break this culture of almost a self-isolation. I'm just doing this thing in my school, and this is what I do in the fall, this is what I do in the spring, and let them know there are other avenues out there for them and their students.
What I worry about is there would be a natural tendency to want to go back to the way things were. One of the things I did this summer was attend about 10 different online conferences that I couldn't have attended before, because all over the country, all over the world, it was really great. And everyone, particularly in the band and orchestra groups, were looking for, this is a temporary stopgap. And somehow or another, we as professionals in higher education and in professional world need to encourage people to find ways to keep the good parts of what's happening in COVID and incorporate them into our real educational paradigm. I mean, I love what David said. We tend to self-isolate. Yeah, music teachers do that. They live in the rooms where they teach. And it's hard to even meet music teachers across town at times. So I'm hoping what we're going to discover is ways to have one teacher work with another teacher's group and vice versa, have students interact with one another. There have been some interesting projects in the past when the internet was first available of people teaching composition and having students in different continents engage in mutual projects. We need to do this more with all of our music teaching. Create some kind of small ensemble situation with students from different parts of the country so they get to know each other and we break down barriers. I think there's real potential here if we are willing to not be so static about we're back in the band room, back in the choral room. I'm here now. If I can say, okay, what did we learn and how can we make this into a real positive change in what we do?
One of the questions we kind of have at the core of what we offered to share here is that whose music is it, right? So if we have a tradition of white Western music, which is the way that I tend to frame it, and that it's not the students' own music or not necessarily the music of their communities, are you seeing changes in that? I know that's one of the hubs of Akira's work, but are you seeing that the music, the types of music that are being created and consumed in this environment where students have energy and time to possibly create from home, or there's so much music now being created? Are we breaking those modalities, or were we already and we're just kind of stuck now? Whose music is it?
I think, if I may, I think those modalities were already being broken. I just don't think that they were necessarily happening in the music classroom. When we do Grammy Camp in the summer, most of the young people who apply for Grammy Camp, they're playing pop music, or they're playing rock, they're playing genres. They are not playing, classical music. They are not playing the campers. They're not playing jazz. Some of them are, but most of them are playing popular music styles, pop, rock, hip hop, country. And that's an entire, and most of them, unfortunately, are not in the music programs in their school because a lot of times there's nothing there for them. So, if I have an opportunity to encourage music educators, let's start embracing all the music. Let's follow what Duke Ellington said. There's only two kinds of music: good music and bad music.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, and bad music can still be in the ears of the beholder as to whose
There you
music
go.
is bad.
Absolutely.
I want to say that two of our staff people actually graduated under Frank. Frank was their teachers. So we have Jack Aaron and Kate Bashis, who's gone on to bigger and better things. But what's really amazing about what they put in, to your point, is that we need to be teaching all forms. There's world music. There's jazz. We need to be breaking off just down this symphony orchestra thing. And it's a really important thing. So for us, even last year live, we made sure to rotate in a flamenco player. We had Jun Kodomoto come in and teach the koto. And so we're actually going to hit world music instruments as well. And then also, too, we encourage our kids to listen to everything. I mean, I think they're shocked that my favorite piece as a classical pianist is this song that, is from the corner from the block. And it's like, it's New Orleans musicians and it's a rapper and all, but that's important. And I tell them all kinds of music needs to be absorbed because that only informs your own music and composition better. And I hope music educators really do that. Don't just toe the line of what's expected. Do things that are out of the box and are different. And I think we'll be better for it.
Well,
Absolutely.
one of the things I've noticed about our incoming students is they are much more fluent in multiple styles of music than we were when we entered school. And I mean, they are open to hearing anything. Most of them have an incredible background in video game music at this point, too, because this is the big thing, so they are, and they're open to not just playing their instruments so they can get a job in a symphony. They really want to find ways to share what they're doing with other people. And this is some of the incredible attitudes that I see coming in. And at the university, I'm not sure that our academies are taking that and nurturing it so that the young people can be multifaceted when they get out. So we somehow have to find a way to develop dispositions to move beyond what the academy model is. These are tough conversations in academia, and
Absolutely.
they're going on. They are going on, but they are really hard. And I do understand why they're hard. It's very difficult to working in a paradigm and then want to shift. So it like I say, it's hard, but it's really great to see these young people really, really interested in doing different musics and working with kids themselves who want to do different things and nurturing different things. I get really excited about that.
Yeah, I think that's fabulous. And I think you hit the nail right on the head, both Frank and Akira. And our colleges need to make some movement too. We've been sort of concentrating in this during this talk on secondary education, but our colleges do need to look at what they are doing. I always counsel students when they're asking me what college should I go to, and I said, well, when you choose a college, it's a question that you should ask. If you're going to be a music major, you're choosing to go into music as your profession. So you should ask that school of music or that music department at that college, you should ask someone there, what are you going to do to help make me better prepared to have a successful career in addition to making me a better performer. So
and possibly a better person as well, but that's one
there
of my
you go.
hats with
Absolutely.
school, right?
Yeah.
So thank you all for joining us. Glad you could all be part of the conversation. Sit in your sofa and enjoy the world, and go out and enjoy your own community and create your own music. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Beautiful, wonderful.